Good day. It is great to have you here today at the desk of the Executive Director, back at the desk and not a location. And today I've kind of decided to talk a little bit about 9/11 because I wrote something. You might have read it, you might not have. But the question was asked, over a week ago, last Saturday, so many times. I was asked the question several times, where were you when the towers fell? Well, here in Biloxi, Ocean Springs, we had a big walk run over the Biloxi Bay Bridge. Firefighters participated, police participated, many members from the communities have participated, and actually our own Amanda, our lovely admin assistant bookkeeper here at Back Bay, who has a fantastic voice and just won a contest here. She sang the national anthem to begin the event. Well, I couldn't get over to hear her sing, and I actually couldn't get over to the event because of the traffic. It was a very strange day because there was a body that was washed up from the Ocean Springs beach. On the one side, the Biloxi Seafood Festival was on the other side of the bridge. I had attended that and was still there and kind of trying to make my way up the bridge. Well, I do remember 9/11, exactly where I was at 20 years ago. I was actually at the Pathfinder shelter. I was the director of the shelter. It was a shelter for homeless, runaway, or throwaway youth, as the federal government defines them. And I was driving in, and it was a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year shelter. And so we had 16 youth there. And when I walked into the shelter at 8:15 a.m., I remember this whole group of 16 black youth, primarily, because we serve primarily black and Latinx youth, and about 5 of my staff, all literally glued to the television in the group room. And of course, I thought, well, they're supposed to be at school, right? It was school time. And the staff were supposed to be busy with, I don't know, their case notes or cleaning up for breakfast. But as I got closer, I realized I saw the Twin Towers on that screen, and I saw an airplane over and over again, right, crashing into those. And as the staff and as the director, we thought, oh my goodness, when the kids get back from school, we're going to have some discussion about this at group in the evening, right? And so we sat down with them in the evening and thought they were going to be incredibly impacted, right, by this event and watching it over and over and at school. And the interesting thing was, this is what those youth said. One youth said, well, my cousin was just shot on the porch last week, passed away. I have an uncle that was shot by the police running away from a drug deal. They all shared with us that this was, for them, nothing new, that they are used to, at least the impression we got, was violence. And I remember, light bulb, got a new awareness here, right? I remember the look on the face of those Milwaukee inner city youth who were growing up in the midst of a neighborhood of violence and thought that the Twin Towers was really nothing more than just one more violent act in their collective memory. And I was somewhat saddened. I remember. I clearly remember. And it reminded me of all the work that I've done around other issues of racism, of violence, of sexism, and how we have like selective memories as human beings. This week, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, who are staying in our long-term volunteer house, helping out around Back Bay Mission, sent me an article from the Sojourner Truth Journal that's online. And if you don't get the Sojourner Truth Journal, I would say please sign up for it. It's a progressive faith in action for social justice online magazine. And it's a fantastic commentary, contemporary commentary on our world today. And this particular article that the Brown sent me was entitled, Christians Must Challenge the Selective Memory of #NeverForget. And it impacted me in some really powerful ways. And reminded me not to live with selective memory and remember our history in America, because we have our own violent past. What does it mean? Now, for 2 decades, we've thought about and we've memorialized this tragic event of 9/11, and yet simultaneously we're encouraged oftentimes as a culture and as a people to move on from the past when it comes to other great American tragedies like the genocidal erasure of indigenous peoples from our land. Move on from all the horrific black violence, the black people that experienced violence during slavery and Jim Crow era, right? And continue to experience violence. Move on. Women are equal. Well, guess what? They're not. You know, women couldn't vote in this country until 1920, and actually that 1920 Voting Act excluded women of color. And guess what? Women are still underrepresented in politics, in business, and in the religious community. And by the way, they're still sorely underpaid compared to men. Selective memory. I have a selective memory. You have a selective memory. The sad thing is if we don't face our history, we're doomed to repeat it, and we have. So as we hear this strange cycle continue to revolve around, spinning the message of pulling our military out of Afghanistan, which was a response to 9/11, I'm reminded that violence begets violence. Hate begets hate. I'm also reminded on the positive end that love begets love. Compassion begets compassion. Kindness begets kindness. And our response to 9/11 has cost countless civilians in other countries and the lives of our own military. Trillions of taxpayer dollars have been spent on a 20-year war and countless wars that we've waged across the globe. Back Bay Mission was born out of the United Church of Christ and continues to have deep roots in the United Church of Christ. And the United Church of Christ is a just peace Christian progressive denomination. That means that we focus on nonviolence in all aspects of life. And we believe that peace is a possibility. I must admit, beyond being just peace in the United Church of Christ, as clergy, I'm probably also a bit of a pacifist, to be honest. I don't know how we justify war and we justify violence. One of my favorite sayings of Jesus is in Matthew, and it says, "The one who lives by the sword shall die by the sword." Jesus was reprimanding one of his followers for taking up a sword and going after one of the Roman soldiers. So sometimes, in the face of the challenges in our culture, whether it's war, whether it's poverty, whether it's homelessness, whether it's taxation, whether it's the COVID and our response to COVID, you know, all of us are having a sense probably of powerlessness. When peace feels like a pipe dream, right? When peace feels like an illusion, when peace feels unattainable, what I tend to do is I go within myself. And today I would encourage you to go within yourself. Introspection. Get in touch with yourself. And I ask some questions, right? Especially around this whole issue of peace and violence. And I think, what can I change about myself to make this world better? What can you change about yourself to make this world better? What belief can I change in order to feel at peace and make others feel at peace? What construct have I created? And this is probably one of my really get in touch introspective questions is, what constructs have I created in my own life that's created dichotomies like us and them and black and white and enemy and ally? And then I ask myself, kind of my final question, I guess, always comes back to this one, is what can I do to make myself really believe and live as if all of us breathe the same air? Afghans, black, white, Latinx, straight, gay, poor and rich. How can I really believe and live as if, yes, we breathe the same air as even those that we call enemy? So I would ask you to do a little bit of introspection. How can you foster a sense of belonging in your sphere of influence? It may be hard during COVID. Kevin and I just talked about how some of our friendships and relationships seem a little bit strained. What can you do to maybe make your neighborhood, just your little neighborhood, safer? to maybe reach out to your neighbors and, I don't know, offer an olive branch of peace, of love, of compassion, of kindness. Maybe take them a cup of sugar rather than asking for a cup of sugar, right? Sometimes when we focus on big concepts and big issues like climate change, immigration, terrorism, homelessness, we feel like we're so little. But I'm always reminded that honestly, together we can. That's really the issue in our incredibly polarized world, is reminding ourselves and living as if together we can make change. We can create a palpable movement comprised of little changes along the way that bring big change into the world and into our neighborhoods and into our lives. So I would suggest one of the things that I've really loved since I moved here to Mississippi is, like, people acknowledge each other in grocery stores and on the streets and in restaurants. They say, "How you doing?" And they respond, kind of without judgment, without understanding kind of your social construct or your place, right? People here are friendly. And I would encourage you who don't live on the coast, and even those who live on the coast, nod to people, smile at people, say hello, how you doing, right? It kind of levels out the playing field of our humanity. We're all the same. We have different duties, different destinies, different dharma, and they're not the same, but we're still all human beings. For some people, they're meant to be fiery activists, right, who put themselves in the front of trains carrying nuclear weapons, right? For others, it's to bake a loaf of bread for somebody who's hungry, or buy a meal at McDonald's and give that to the hungry person outside the McDonald's, panhandling. For some, it's dropping clothing or food off here at the doors of Back Bay Mission so that we can fill our clothing closet or our food pantries. For some, it's coming down to Back Bay Mission swinging a hammer to improve the home of somebody who's living in poverty. And maybe you do that in your own community wherever you live. But it's really about you doing you, which is something actually Mrs. Brown reminded me of. She said, "James, you do you." And I said, "Well, Mrs. Brown, you do you." Find where the spirit or where life or your energy is calling you to make peace and share love and compassion and mercy. Yeah, we got to take care of ourselves, but we also are called to take care of others. And I would encourage you to be thankful for waking up and having another day of life, right? Start with gratitude. Take stock of what you have and don't take what you have for granted. And be grateful for your friends, for your family, for the relationships you have, for the community you live in, for the sunshine, for the rain. Right now here in Biloxi and on the coast, we're suffering the effects of another hurricane, right? At least a tropical storm that never became a hurricane, but we've got rain. But it's beautiful, and it makes things grow, and it brings green. It brings green into our community here, and also actually cleans the air, right? So I would like to close with just some of the words from the prayer of St. Francis, which I'm sure you all know. And I just encourage you to look at the prayer of St. Francis today. Read over it several times today and get it into your bones and into your heart and into your mind. And these are just the five first lines. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is injury, pardon. And where there is doubt, faith. Make me a channel of your peace. So try to be a channel of peace, of change, and of joy and compassion and mercy today. That's the very best of our humanity. So thanks for joining me. Feel free to send gifts of money or gifts of socks or underwear or men's jeans. Those are some things we really need right now at Back Bay Mission. Or just bring yourself to do some volunteer work. So we appreciate you, and thanks for tuning in.